Ethan had always preferred solitude. His small workshop, nestled at the edge of the desert, was filled with old machines, wires, and parts from drones and satellites long abandoned. He liked the quiet, the way the wind swept across the sand, and the smell of burnt circuits mixed with dry earth. The desert gave him peace, but it also hid secrets. And that day, one of those secrets came calling. He was scavenging parts from a broken drone, its metal frame twisted and scorched from some unknown crash. His hands moved skillfully, pulling out small circuits and checking the battery cores. Suddenly, a faint sound reached him, a soft, almost human-like groan that echoed across the desert. Ethan froze, listening. The desert was quiet except for the wind and his own heartbeat. It came again. This time, clearer, more desperate. Ethan set his tools down and followed the sound. His boots sank slightly into the hot sand as he walked toward a rocky outcrop. There, half buried in the sand and debris, was a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. She was humanoid, but her skin had a faint, iridescent glow, like light passing through water. Her hair shimmered silver, and her eyes were larger than a human's, with deep violet irises that seemed to reflect the sky. Her clothes were torn and burned in places, revealing a delicate frame. She coughed weakly, clutching her side, and tried to move but fell back into the sand. Ethan's instincts screamed caution, but his humanity took over. He approached slowly. "Hey, are you okay?" he called. She looked at him, fear and confusion in her eyes. She didn't answer. Instead, she made a low sound, almost like a sigh. He crouched beside her and noticed a small device strapped to her wrist. It glowed faintly, with a symbol that pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Ethan didn't know what it was, but he guessed it was important. Carefully, he helped her sit up and offered water from his canteen. She accepted it hesitantly, drinking in small, careful sips. "I'm Ethan," he said softly. "You're safe here, I'll help you." Her voice was melodic, almost musical, and yet heavy with pain. Ethan shook his head. "I don't understand, but we'll figure it out." Her eyes followed his every movement, studying him with intensity. As he worked, he noticed the technology scattered around her. Pieces of her ship, small and sleek, embedded in the sand. It wasn't like anything Earth had produced. Metals that seemed to shift in color, circuits that hummed softly without power, and a strange device that glowed and projected small holographic symbols into the air. Ethan's mind raced. Whoever or whatever she was, she didn't come from here. By nightfall, she was stable enough to move. Ethan made her a makeshift shelter in his workshop, a corner padded with blankets and old cloth. He placed a small lamp beside her so she could see without strain. She sat quietly, watching him as he worked on repairing a small drone. "I don't know who you are," he said, speaking softly. "But you're hurt and you need help. I can't just leave you here." The sound made him uneasy, but also curious. Finally, she spoke again in the same strange language, but this time Ethan felt something different. The words weren't understood, but their meaning was clear. She was thanking him. He smiled, a little embarrassed. "You're welcome, but we need to find out what happened to your ship." Ethan didn't know how she understood, but she seemed to trust him. He gathered tools and parts, carefully examining the fragments of her ship. Most of it was beyond repair, twisted metal and fried circuits, but a few pieces hummed faintly. The device on her wrist seemed linked to them, as if it were part of a network he couldn't access. He worked late into the night, trying to understand even a fraction of the alien technology. She watched silently, occasionally touching the device on her wrist and looking at him with something that resembled hope. Ethan felt an unusual connection forming, an understanding beyond words. When morning came, she was stronger. She stood unsteadily, testing her legs. Ethan watched her, feeling a strange mix of awe and concern. She moved with grace, despite the obvious injuries, and looked at him as if weighing a decision. Finally, she spoke again, this time placing her hand over his. He felt a warmth spread through him, a silent promise. Then, without another word, she walked out of the workshop, heading back toward the desert. She paused at the edge of the sand dunes, looked back once, and then disappeared over the horizon. Ethan stood there for a long time, the wind blowing across the desert, feeling a strange emptiness. He didn't know her name, where she came from, or why she had appeared in his life. But he felt a certainty he couldn't explain. Something had changed, and he had been part of it. Days passed. Ethan tried to go back to his normal routine, repairing machines and scavenging tech, but he couldn't shake the memory of her eyes, the glow of the symbol on her wrist, and the quiet strength she had shown. Then, strange things began to happen. Machines in his workshop started behaving oddly. A drone he had repaired the day before activated without his command, circling the room before settling on the table. His computer screens flickered, displaying symbols that weren't part of any language he knew. The air seemed charged with energy, as if something unseen was present. Ethan's heart raced. He tried to convince himself it was coincidence, but deep down, he knew it was. He remembered the device on her wrist, the pulsing light, and the warmth he had felt when she touched him. Something had followed her, or something she left behind had activated. That night he sat in his workshop, watching the desert under the stars. The silence was broken by a soft hum growing louder, and then he saw her. Liara. She walked through the door as if she had never left, her presence filling the room with quiet authority. Ethan stood frozen, unsure whether to speak or flee. She raised a hand, and the glow from her wrist spread into the room, illuminating every corner with soft violet light. She looked at him, and in that gaze he understood that the desert, the machines, and even Earth itself were now connected to something much larger than him. "I warned you," she said, her voice no longer melodic gibberish, but words forming in his mind directly. "The Void Legion is coming. They seek to control or destroy. You helped me. Now you must trust humanity. You must show them what humans can do. Not just a woman from another world, but an entire threat that could endanger Earth." And yet, in the midst of fear, he felt a spark of pride. Humanity's resilience, his own ability to think, adapt, and survive, was about to be tested on a scale he had never dreamed of. Liara placed her hand over his chest, and he felt the pulsing of the symbol, the warmth and power flowing into him. "I will teach you, together we will prepare, but time is short." And as the desert wind howled outside, machines hummed, and strange symbols flickered across his screens, Ethan realized the adventure, and the fight for humanity's survival, had only just begun. Days passed, but Ethan's life was no longer his own. The quiet of the desert had vanished, replaced by a low hum that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Machines in his workshop behaved strangely, lights flickering without reason, drones activating at random. Ethan tried to ignore it, telling himself it was just a side effect of working with old technology. But deep down, he knew something had changed. Liara stayed close, moving with grace through his small workshop. She no longer needed to speak aloud. Her thoughts reached him directly, forming words in his mind. Ethan had grown used to it now. The connection was strange but comforting. Her presence brought knowledge he couldn't yet understand. She showed him how to repair circuits in ways he had never imagined, how to manipulate energy in small, controlled bursts, and how the symbol on her wrist could link to other devices. "You have potential," she said one night, her voice echoing in his mind. "Humans are not predictable. You think differently than my people. That is why the Void Legion fears you." The Void Legion, they're coming here. Humans were no longer alone, and the survival of his planet might rest on his ability to act. Liara began teaching him to use her technology. At first, it seemed impossible. The devices were alive in a sense, reacting to thought and intention rather than commands. Ethan struggled to understand, failing repeatedly. A small drone refused to follow his instructions, instead hovering, spinning in the air and beeping erratically. Liara reached out, touching the device, and Ethan suddenly realized it was listening, learning, waiting for him to match its logic. "It is not just a machine," she explained. "It adapts, it grows with you. You must understand it before it obeys." He had always loved tinkering, but this was unlike anything he had ever done. Every success filled him with pride, every failure taught him patience. One morning, as the sun rose over the desert, a sharp vibration ran through the ground. Ethan froze. The air shimmered, and distant clouds of dust rose on the horizon. Liara's eyes widened. "They are near," she whispered in his mind. "The Void Legion probes have arrived." Liara moved to a workbench and activated a small device projecting a holographic map of the desert. Tiny lights flickered, showing the locations of the probes. "They seek weakness," she said. "But humans do not always follow expected patterns. You will show them that." He had no army, no weapons, only his skill, his wits, and the alien tech Liara had given him. But he also knew something vital. The Void Legion expected predictable reactions. Humans were not predictable. He began setting traps. Using old Earth drones modified with alien circuits, he placed them strategically across the desert. Some emitted blinding light bursts to confuse sensors. Others released electromagnetic pulses to disrupt electronics. He even repurposed old solar panels to act as mirrors, creating illusions of movement in the sand. Every trap was designed to exploit what he knew of alien logic, which was limited but consistent. As he worked, Liara stood beside him, guiding without interference. "You are clever," she said, Your mind is unique. It bends, twists, changes. That is why they cannot predict you. That is why humans survive. He had a purpose greater than himself, and he was ready to fight, not with brute force, but with his mind. The first probe landed near the workshop, silent and precise. Its surface shimmered with alien symbols, and a hatch opened, releasing small reconnaissance units. Ethan's modified drones activated immediately, buzzing through the air with precision. The probe units hesitated, then attacked, only to be overwhelmed by unpredictable human ingenuity. One of Ethan's drones, a simple device with reflective surfaces, used sunlight to blind the alien sensors, causing a cascade of malfunctions. Liara watched with fascination. "Yes," she said, "exactly like that. Humans think differently. You adapt. You survive." Suddenly, one probe activated a weapon, firing a pulse that shattered the ground near him. Ethan ducked behind a pile of rubble, his heart racing. Liara's energy shield flickered into life, absorbing the blast. "They are learning," she said. "You must be faster." Using that, he sent one of his drones through a narrow canyon to flank it. The drone released a small EMP burst, temporarily disabling the probe systems. Ethan acted quickly, connecting a wire from a solar panel to a modified device, creating a short circuit that caused the probe to shut down entirely. Liara's eyes glimmered with admiration. "They are cautious now. They will test more carefully next time. You have shown them that humans are unpredictable." That night, as the sun set over the desert, Ethan and Liara sat among the wreckage of the probes. The air was thick with tension, but also excitement. Ethan looked at her and asked, "How long before they return?" "They underestimate it, and that is why you have survived today." Over the next days, Ethan and Liara worked tirelessly. He learned to anticipate alien tactics, to combine old and new technology in ways that no alien could predict. He experimented with drones that could think independently, energy shields that could reshape themselves in seconds, and devices that could camouflage in the desert. Each success filled him with pride, each failure taught him patience. Then one morning, a new signal appeared on his makeshift scanners. Unlike the probes, this signal was deliberate, powerful, and intelligent. Ethan felt a thrill of both fear and excitement. Liara's eyes widened. "They are sending a message," she said. "They know we exist. They are testing you. We have to outthink them." He thought back to the first day he found her, wounded and alone in the desert. He had made a simple choice, to help. That choice had set in motion events far beyond his understanding. And now, humanity's survival, its place in the galaxy, depended on ingenuity, courage, and the unyielding will to adapt. Ethan smiled, determination burning in his chest. He was ready. The Void Legion would see what humans could do, and they would not be disappointed. Ethan woke before sunrise, the desert still cool and quiet. But he did not feel peace. Something had changed overnight. The strange signal from the Void Legion had grown stronger, sharper, almost intelligent. His scanners were full of patterns that no human, or even Liara, had seen before. Liara floated near the table where Ethan studied the projections. "They are adapting," she said, her voice calm but serious in his mind. "They have observed the first encounter. They are learning. You must learn faster. You think in ways they cannot. That is your strength. We will make them understand that." Liara guided him to a corner of the workshop where a small device rested, glowing softly. It was a strange orb about the size of a fist, covered with intricate lines and symbols. "This is a memory core," she explained. "It contains information about my people, about strategies we have used against the Void Legion, but it is incomplete. Only a human mind can fill the gaps, find new solutions, and make them work." Liara smiled in the way humans would recognize as gentle. "You will. That is why I chose you. We need your creativity, your unpredictability. You will help humanity survive." He realized that if humans could exploit those gaps, they could outsmart the Void Legion in ways no alien could predict. Over the next few hours, Ethan combined the orb's knowledge with what he had already learned from Liara's devices. He built new drones, faster and smarter, able to react almost instinctively. He created energy shields that could shift shape in response to attacks. He even rigged old satellite dishes to act as early warning systems, using the desert's natural features to hide them from alien sensors. Liara watched quietly, only stepping in to guide when he reached a dead end. Ethan felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. For the first time, he understood what Liara meant when she said humans were unpredictable. Humans could make mistakes, yes, but mistakes often led to innovation, to new ways of thinking that aliens could not anticipate. The signal from the Void Legion grew stronger by the hour. It was almost as if they were watching, learning, waiting for him to make a move. Ethan felt a shiver of excitement. This was a challenge, a test, and he was ready. That night under the stars, Ethan and Liara set out to test the new defenses. They used the desert terrain to their advantage, placing drones in canyons, behind dunes, and near rocky cliffs. Each device was connected, able to communicate with the others through Liara's technology, forming a network that could anticipate movements and respond in real time. As they worked, a shadow passed over the desert. Ethan looked up and saw a new wave of alien probes descending. This time they were larger, more formidable, their surfaces glinting in the moonlight. They hovered, scanning the area, looking for signs of life. Ethan's heart pounded, but he felt no fear. "Remember," Liara said in his mind, "they expect predictable humans. They will test your intelligence, not just your machines. Think creatively." The probes adjusted, trying to anticipate, but Ethan was always one step ahead, improvising with each response. Suddenly, a beam of energy shot toward one of the drones. Ethan reacted instinctively, redirecting it using a reflective panel he had set up earlier. The beam ricocheted, hitting one of the probes and causing it to malfunction. Liara gasped in surprise. "No alien expected that," she whispered. Ethan smiled, adrenaline surging. "Humans think differently," he said aloud. "We adapt." He quickly rearranged the drones, using the desert's natural features to create traps. Sandstorms kicked up, triggered by small devices that emitted heat and air pressure. Energy pulses disrupted alien sensors. Holographic projections created false targets. The probes fired again and again, but each attempt was met with a new challenge, a new trick they had not anticipated. One probe landed near a rocky cliff, larger than the others, and deployed a reconnaissance unit. Ethan's drone surrounded it, a coordinated swarm that forced the alien device to retreat. The probe itself emitted a high-pitched sound, almost like a warning. Ethan realized it was learning, recording his tactics, adapting. Liara's voice filled his mind. "You are teaching them. They will remember humans as unpredictable, dangerous. That is what we need." The Void Legion might have advanced technology, but humans had creativity, instinct, and willpower, qualities no machine could fully anticipate. Finally, the probes began to retreat. One by one, they lifted off, leaving the desert silent once more. Ethan stood among the modified drones, exhausted but triumphant. Liara floated beside him, her eyes glowing softly. "They will return," she said, "but now they know humans are not weak. They know Earth cannot be easily conquered. You have shown them the strength of your kind." Over the next days, Ethan continued to study the memory orb. He discovered more about Liara's people and the Void Legion, how they had conquered worlds, how they thought in strict logic, how they underestimated the creativity of those they considered primitive. Each new piece of knowledge made him more determined. He also realized something else. The symbol on Liara's wrist was more than a tool. It was a link, a way for humans to interact with alien technology directly. When he touched it, he could feel information flowing into his mind, revealing patterns and connections that no human could normally perceive. It was overwhelming at first, but he began to understand its potential. Liara taught him how to use it, showing him how to combine human intuition with alien logic. Together, they created new strategies, new defenses, and even new ways to communicate across vast distances. Ethan felt his mind expanding, challenged in ways he had never imagined. One evening, as they rested in the workshop, Liara spoke softly. "Ethan, humans are special. You survive because you think, because you create, because you do not follow the same rules as other species. The Void Legion will return stronger, but you now have the advantage of unpredictability." Somewhere out there, the Void Legion was watching, learning, and preparing. But they had underestimated humans, underestimated the power of ingenuity, courage, and adaptation. Ethan smiled, a quiet determination settling over him. He had learned much in these days, about alien technology, about strategy, and about the strength of human creativity. But he also knew there was more to come. The Void Legion would not give up easily, and the challenges ahead would test everything he had learned. Yet he was ready. He had Liara, his machines, and the human mind, a combination no alien could fully understand or predict. And as long as humans could think, adapt, and innovate, Earth would survive. The desert night stretched endlessly, filled with the hum of machines and the quiet anticipation of what was to come. Ethan closed his eyes briefly, feeling the pulse of the symbol on Liara's wrist, the heartbeat of knowledge and connection. Humanity was being tested, and he was ready to show the galaxy what it was capable of. For the first time, he felt the full weight of his responsibility and the full pride of being human. The desert was alive with tension. Ethan moved quickly, adjusting his drones and energy devices as Liara hovered beside him. The Void Legion had returned, and this time their presence was unmistakable. Shadows of massive ships crossed the sand, blotting out the sun. Ethan could feel the vibrations in the ground as the alien machines settled into formation. They had learned from the previous encounter, but he knew humans had something they could never anticipate: imagination. Liara's eyes glimmered with urgency. They are stronger this time. They know what to expect, but they do not know you. That is your advantage. You must use it. The first probe descended, sleek and dark, its surface reflecting the desert like liquid metal. Smaller units poured from it, moving with mechanical precision. Ethan activated his defenses. Drones surged forward, using sunlight to blind the alien sensors. Energy pulses disrupted communications among the alien units. Heat and sandstorms rose from hidden devices, obscuring visibility and confusing their targeting systems. The alien units hesitated, their movements slightly delayed. Ethan realized they were analyzing, learning, adjusting to his tactics. But he had anticipated this. He sent another drone in a zigzag pattern, carrying a reflective panel. The panel angled sunlight directly at a probe's sensors, causing it to spin and malfunction. Liara's voice echoed in his mind. "Excellent, but they will adapt quickly. You must stay ahead." When the probes advanced, these pulses short-circuited their circuits briefly, forcing them to retreat momentarily. Each time they adapted, he changed the pattern, using the desert itself as a weapon. He rerouted power to certain drones, creating decoys that drew the alien units into sand traps. Hours passed, a blur of movement, lights, and pulses. Ethan could feel exhaustion creeping in, but he pushed on, knowing that any hesitation could be fatal. He studied the probes carefully, observing patterns, predicting actions, and improvising at every turn. The Void Legion had not encountered this before, a human mind reacting in real time, changing strategies with creativity and instinct. A massive ship landed near the workshop, larger than any probe he had seen. Its surface was black and angular, covered in strange symbols that pulsed with energy. Ethan's heart pounded. This was no longer reconnaissance, this was a full assault. Liara floated beside him, energy from her wrist flowing into the drones. "They are testing your limits. Remember, humans survive because they think differently. Use that." The drones moved with purpose, shifting formations to confuse the alien units. The massive ship fired a beam of energy toward the desert, scorching the sand and creating a wall of heat. Ethan reacted immediately. He redirected power from nearby drones to create a mirrored energy field, reflecting the beam back toward the ship. Sparks flew across the desert as the ship's shield absorbed the unexpected attack. Liara's voice carried a note of pride. They did not expect that. Humans do not follow predictable rules. That is their strength. He wanted the Void Legion to understand that humans were not weak, not primitive, not predictable. They were clever, resourceful, and unyielding. He activated a small group of drones, each carrying a device that emitted high-frequency sound waves. The waves interfered with the alien sensors, causing confusion among their ranks. At the same time, hidden panels in the desert reflected sunlight, creating multiple illusions of movement. The alien units fired repeatedly, but every attack was countered by a human trick, a human improvisation, a human mind at work. One of the massive alien units broke through his initial defenses, landing near the workshop. Ethan acted instinctively. He sent a swarm of drones to surround it while another drone emitted a concentrated pulse of energy. The alien unit struggled, its circuits overloading in ways no human weapon had caused before. It spun and collapsed, unable to adapt quickly enough. Liara's eyes glowed brighter. They are learning. They will remember humans as dangerous, unpredictable, and clever. That is why you survive. And humans had one advantage that no alien could replicate: instinct, creativity, and the willingness to take risks no machine could calculate. Hours turned into a full day. The desert was scarred with craters, smoke rising from malfunctioning alien units. Ethan and Liara did not rest. Every movement of the Void Legion was met with a new strategy. He rerouted drones, activated hidden devices, and improvised at every turn. It was exhausting, but it worked. The aliens could not anticipate the combination of human instinct and alien technology he had created. Finally, the massive ship retreated, lifting off into the sky. Smaller units followed, disappearing over the horizon. The desert fell silent once more. Ethan sank to the sand, exhausted but exhilarated. Liara floated beside him, her energy dimming slightly, but her expression was one of satisfaction. "You have done it," she said softly in his mind. "You have shown them the strength of humans. They will not forget this. They will think twice before returning." Humans did it. He had started by helping a wounded alien woman, and now he had defended Earth from an interstellar threat. Humans had survived not by brute force, not by technology alone, but by using their greatest weapon, ingenuity. Liara placed a hand on his shoulder. "There is more to come," she said. "The Void Legion will return with greater numbers, but now they know humans are different. They will approach with caution, and that gives us an advantage." That night, Ethan and Liara worked together to improve their defenses further. He modified drones to think independently, creating small units that could make decisions without direct control. He reinforced energy shields and set up hidden traps in the desert. Every device, every strategy, was designed to surprise, confuse, and challenge the aliens. As dawn approached, Ethan looked out over the desert. The horizon was empty, but he knew it was only a matter of time before the Void Legion returned. Yet he felt no fear, only determination. Humans had faced impossible challenges before, and they had survived. With creativity, courage, and the willingness to improvise, they could face anything. Liara placed a small orb into his hand. It glowed softly, pulsating with alien knowledge. "This is a gift," she said. "It contains information about my people and strategies for future encounters. Use it wisely. Combine it with human ingenuity. That is your advantage." He understood now that helping Liara had been more than an act of kindness. It had been the first step in proving humanity's value to the galaxy. And now, standing on the desert sands, he felt the full weight of that responsibility. The sun rose over the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert. Ethan and Liara stood together, ready for whatever came next. The Void Legion might return, stronger and more prepared, but humans had learned something vital. Their creativity, adaptability, and determination could turn the tide of any battle. And as the wind swept across the dunes, Ethan knew one thing for certain. The fight was far from over, but humanity had already proven its strength. They were clever, resourceful, and unpredictable. And that was a power no alien could ever fully understand. For the first time, Ethan felt a deep sense of pride, not just in himself, but in all humans. The desert was quiet now, but the echoes of the battle remained, a reminder that ingenuity and courage could outmatch even the most advanced technology. He glanced at Liara. "We'll be ready," he said. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. And humanity will survive." But he also knew that humans had something the galaxy had never seen before: the will to think, to adapt, and to overcome. And that would make all the difference.